Okay, it is now 2:01 p.m. Eastern. Welcome everyone to today's webinar, proudly presented by the tremendous partnership between Fleet Cost and Care and Acumen Information Systems. The webinar today is titled, "Why are you still using outdated technology?" Or conversely, if you want to look at it from the other side of the coin, the question would be, is it time to embrace new software technology to improve your business? So my name is Zachary Daly. I'm an account executive here at Acumen. I'm going to be your host today. Just a quick couple housekeeping notes here before we get started. Today, the webinar is in listen-only mode, but we do encourage those attending to ask questions in the chat box feature, which we will have open. And feel free to ask questions as we progress. This is going to be recorded, so you will have the opportunity to um, dis dispense or disperse this recording, share with any of your colleagues or any of your connections in the professional world that might be in the same boat as yourselves. So, um, again, feel free to ask questions if we have time at the end. Our distinguished panel will be available to answer them. If we do run out of time and your question does not get answered, we will address that in email following this webinar. Okay, without further ado, I'm going to introduce our distinguished panel. We have from Fleet Cost and Care, Tony Ashdown, Vice President of Client Services. We also have Paul Crompton from Acumen. He's a managing partner at Acumen. And we also have Nick Nabozny, who is the Sage Intact Practice Director uh, here at Acumen. So welcome all three of the distinguished panelists. We are going to be posing a series of 5 questions, taking turns who will be answering them first as we go through this, as we would call a fireside chat format webinar. So in front of you is a long list. I'm not going to spend too much time on it. It's just as I speak, peruse the bullets and just put yourself in the mindset of what is change going to look like for your business? What is changing the old ways you do things in technology? What is that really going to mean? Who's it going to involve? Who's it going to affect? Um, as we hear from our experts, we're going to compare and contrast what is it like to continue to use the old technology. Is there risk? What is really driving this forward to the modern technology, and really what are the benefits on the other end once you complete that move, and how is that going to improve your business as a whole? So I'm going to get started here with the questions. So I'm going to pose the first one to Paul first. What are the risks of doing nothing with my current accounting software or technology? Take it away.
Thank you. So for me, that splits into two parts. Firstly, lack of security. Lots of organizations are running very old systems that, quite frankly, are very, very open. In today's world, we live in a world of hackers. We talk about things like ransomware. We talk about things like phishing. We have kind of rogue people out there sending emails internally within businesses pretending to be finance teams, pretending to be clients, trying to seek payment for things. So the older legacy systems on old-fashioned networks, sometimes supported by internal IT people or maybe a local computer company, I would have hesitation or reservations about how up to date are those networks, how up to date is that security, and things like, can you restore from a backup in the event of a disaster? We read about hurricanes. Obviously, we're here in Florida, so we see them throughout the summer. But if your system was to go down and be irrecoverable and you were to lose years and years of data, would that would be kind of catastrophic to the business. So with the modern day systems, all the management of that, your hardware really goes away. The cloud applications are managed by software professionals who are monitoring these systems 24 hours a day. They're in air conditioned, bomb proof, fireproof, everything proof type rooms, and they're really, they're making sure that there are no issues because it's ultimately it's IT professionals that are managing these environments. So it's really one less headache for a client, but the risks of kind of staying on those old legacy networks are pretty high. And then lastly, compliance. Certainly within the crane industry and other industries, rules change all the time. Compliance changes all the time. And how does your computer software and your technology keep up to date? Well, what happens now with the cloud applications is that these compliance changes are really enforced into the product updates. And those product updates are mandatory, usually 4 times a year. And those compliance updates are coming out on a regular basis. So you don't necessarily have to worry about staying compliant to maybe things like industry changes or rule changes or tax changes. All of that is now done for you by the software client. So to me, the risks of not doing anything, I would certainly question the security, and I would certainly question, just how compliant are you with all these changes?
Thanks, Paul. On to Nick.
When I thought about this, Zach, having just come from an efficiency study with a client, that was one of the things I wanted to point out. A risk of kind of staying with older technology is inefficiency, and that can be in various different departments, especially when you're doing kind of integrations manually, right? You have systems where you need to post data back and forth, and having lack of modern technology, modern automation can even cause you to do that twice, sometimes 3 times, and that's really expensive, right? It's really time consuming. It can be loaded with mistakes, and um, we see lots of clients also then keying data to spreadsheets, right? Either to build a report or keying data from spreadsheets to try to import it back into the system. So that was the really first thing that came to my mind is that inefficiency by having to do lots and lots of manual data entry. And then kind of a byproduct of that, right, we see sometimes is that because of that inefficiency, that can really restrict growth. So as the business is growing, changing, and hopefully driving forward, right, you want to be able to do that without having to add full-time employees or staff or even temporary people, right, to the organization to kind of just do that type of manual data entry. So we see that on a daily basis that technology can really fix that, and it can often do it very, very quickly.
Great. Thank you very much, Nick. And same question to you now, Tony.
Thank you, Nick. Um, yeah, the thing that we've noticed most with customers on older legacy accounting products is how they get stranded by a lack of support. Because as these old products get grandparented, the support falls away from them, and they're then no longer able to make tweaks to them, make changes to them. They don't typically have a lot of bugs, but anytime you want to enhance something or get a new report, there's almost no one around who can actually tell you how to do it or go about it. Or if there is, they charge a lot because it's all independent contract services. So support becomes a big challenge, especially on those very old packages from the early 90s and mid 90s. Um, in fact, here at Fleet, we actually changed our sister company, JJ Curran Crane, onto a new version, onto a SaaS version of Sage, mainly because our old version was unsupported, and that was our biggest fear. So we've done it ourselves in that space. Um, from a partner software point of view, one of the things that we noticed with older accounting packages is they're not keeping up with what we're doing in our product in terms of integrations with things like payroll products and taxation management products like Avalera. So you're not able to take advantage of the integrations you can get with really cutting edge products. And if you're trading across multiple states and not managing your tax through a good quality tax tool, you're just opening yourself up to a nightmare. So keeping up with things like that's probably the real risk from our point of view of being on one of these older legacy products.
Excellent. Thank you. And on to question two. This one to Nick first. How would you compare using an old accounting system versus a modern accounting system?
That's a really good question, Zach. I would say that modern systems, especially cloud-based systems, are certainly more flexible, right? Giving you the ability to work really from anywhere, especially after COVID, right, where everyone started to work from home, from an office, people getting rid of offices sometimes, right, in this new workforce. So being able to work from anywhere, from any device. So a controller might be working from home during month end, or perhaps has to go to a conference, which previously during month end wasn't really possible, but now it can be. It can approve journal entries from his or her phone, right, without having to VPN into the system. So giving you the flexibility to work wherever you need to be is a big kind of difference. And we're seeing with new cloud-based systems. And then I'd also say the newer systems have more functionality kind of out of the box, right? More is built into it, more technology, things like workflow, messaging systems, communicating about transactions in the system rather than outside with email or Teams, right? Or phone calls or walking down the hall. Um, and then also document attachments, right? Adding support documents to either an AP invoice or to a journal entry even. So those are kind of three things that just kind of came to the top of my head when I was thinking about what's included that I don't see in the older systems, or you can see, but you have lots of add-ons that have to come in. So definitely more included out of the box, I'd say.
Understood. Thank you. And to you, Paul.
Yeah, I think I probably echoed Nick's point. So the old legacy systems, it was always funny because everything a client ever asked for, in addition to financials and things, was always an add-on. So we always used to get into discussions, oh, is that extra? Does that cost extra? Is that extra? And, it kind of, these are the software companies that are kind of designing the systems that way. But to me, it discouraged trust between you and the client because it kind of feels like every time they wanted to ring up and ask for something, guess what? It's an add-on and it's always going to feel like extra. So today's products to me, there's a lot more, as Nick said, contained within them, and you get away from that extra add-on mindset, really. But the bigger one for me is changes of staff. These new modern day systems are so much easier and so more intuitive with much more advanced teaching of how to do kind of day-to-day tasks within them, that going back 15 years to when you had your old system legacy training and trying to remember what somebody taught you for a new person that's maybe starting next Monday, it's just impossible. I mean, we see some new people starting at some of our clients, and we have to hold their hand up and really respect them that they've managed to kind of learn these old legacy products and teach themselves, but they deserve a medal. It's not easy, it's not intuitive, it's not particularly attractive to use. And when you do change the people, and since COVID, everybody's changed a lot. We've had a high turnover of people. Then that can be a real advantage to an organization, in my opinion. It's just so much easier to train a new user.
Yeah, I'd certainly like to build on that point, Paul. We see the new system as very in parallel with a lot of sort of technologies that we don't even know we're using that we use every day. Like everyone goes onto eBay or Amazon or any of the, Prime sites, even Netflix, and there's a certain way those sites function, and you walk through them. No one trains you how to do them. You don't have to be an expert on any of those things to use them. And that's how these new accounting packages and modern software packages work. You can employ someone on Monday, give them 3 minutes training, and they can walk through it, and they don't have to have a PhD in accounting anymore. They can be someone who's out of school, cross training, working in, and they can follow the path because it's the same path they followed when they ordered a pizza last night. It's the same path they ordered when they went through Amazon. So they the ability to bring staff in fast and cheap and not necessarily at a very high and by result expensive level is a real advantage of modern software. You're actually taking a lot of the skills out, putting them into the system so you can actually focus your quality staff on doing higher value reporting work and things like that. And that's where we've found it. We now get real-time reporting all the time out of our accounting. We don't wait to month end to get reporting. It's constant, feeds back into the next gen system. We know where our AR is, where our monthly turnover is. We've got all that in our fingertips now, whereas in the past that was all a wait for the end of the month and get the report stuff. So real-time reporting is the future, and we're certainly building on it.
Well said, Tony. And now we'll move on to the next question. We'll lead with Paul this time. What benefits would my organization gain from moving to a modern cloud accounting system?
Sure. Going back to my kind of earlier point, a lot of it is peace of mind. We live in a world where attacks and, people trying to take a chunk of you happens every day. And, IT is very vulnerable. This is your financial data after all said and done. And, in the hands of the wrong people, it can be very valuable. And I think a lot of organizations have this, it will never happen to me. We had a client recently in Oregon that had a ransomware attack and the hackers were holding them, a $10 million furniture organization. And, they're not necessarily, they didn't consider themselves to be at risk and they nearly lost 7 years worth of financial data. Fortunately, we were able to kind of recover. So a lot of it to me is peace of mind. This is secure. It's one less thing for you to worry about. You've got your day jobs to do, which is, efficiently running crane businesses and things like that. So looking over your shoulder all the time, worrying about ransomware attacks and phishing attacks and people trying to get you to pay them, in rogue fashion goes away. And then really, as I said, with the compliance, unless you can train people and unless they're going to conferences or conventions every day and really keeping up to date with weekly changes of rules and things like that, which is just to me impractical when you've got an industry that, you should be keeping up to date with your industry changes, but not necessarily with kind of the laws of the land changes. So again, peace of mind, whether that's security peace of mind or whether that's compliance peace of mind, I think are real benefits of today's systems.
Excellent. Nick?
I thought for this one, Zach, because I talked about inefficiency and growth, I might just take a quick minute to show what I mean by that and kind of see what a cloud-based operating system or a cloud-based accounting system would offer. So, Stephen, if I could share for just a sec, please. Okay, perfect. Thank you. So, talked about growth, right? And one of the ways we see some of our clients growing is having more than one entity. We've seen our clients grow where they have their crane entity, right? Their crane rental, the main business, and some have added construction or steel erection or a real estate company, or some have added through acquisition where they might say, okay, this Orlando yard is a separate entity now. And in the legacy systems, we often see that as being separate databases in the accounting system, meaning separate AP aging, separate chart of accounts, right? Separate financial statements, and then having to kind of export everything, stitch it all back together, and then really kind of build this consolidated mammoth database to allow you to consolidate some of those reports to give you information or a picture of the entire organization now. So doesn't really matter what those entities are, whether they're locations like just yards, whether they're legal entities like different businesses, this. And we've had clients where they had crane organizations and grocery stores, so they can be completely separate organizations or companies or even industries, right? That can still be grouped together in these kind of newer systems, like you see here, where I can have a number of different entities, which leads me to look at a dashboard like this. And then unless I select one of the entities, I only want to look at crane rental or the warehousing company, I can very quickly and natively consolidate everything in real time. And then talked about efficiencies, right? And pulling information from the system is one where we see lots of struggles, getting reports out in a timely manner. Well, the newer systems give us a tool called dimensional accounting. And as an accountant by trade myself, this one I thought was a phenomenal tool when I saw it. And it allows me to add these tags on my transactions. And what we did with our integration with NextGen, right, with the FCC guys, is we mirrored the tags that you would have on a transaction coming from NextGen. So we can track the unit in accounting. We can track the yard, the salesperson, right? The job that's coming through on that transaction. So now in accounting, if I wanted to filter this by yard or filter this by customer or salesperson, right? I get all of that information now at my fingertips here because the accounting system can handle that, right? It's got this dimensionality to it, allowing me to pull reports any way I need to. So again, giving me the information to kind of support that growth. So I can do it all together. I can consolidate it. I can do it at a granular level to give me the information that I need to make really good decisions in real time.
Perfect. Thanks for showing that, Nick. And Tony.
Yeah, some from my perspective, one of the big changes with going, well, the big advantages of a modern system is you can integrate with other things very seamlessly because of the open API structures. So we've, for example, shortly launching our SaaS version of the next gen product, and that will connect directly into Sage Intacct without any configuration. It just naturally mates together, and the same applies to a lot of those integrations that are out in the marketplace, whether it's a tax one or a DVIR or ELD systems, they all link straight in, and you don't have to build custom bridges that get broken every time there's an update, or whenever someone wants to add something to it, you have to manually change it. With a SaaS environment, everything connects together automatically, and they're updating each other as they go. Certainly, with our new product coming on board later in the year, the direct connection to online accounting packages like Intacct is going to be a big feature for people because they're no longer going to have to manage integrations. They're just going to be straight out of the box. So that's going to be a huge advantage. And the flow through from that is the data that comes with it. Everything's connected, everything's seamless, everything real time. It's a huge step forward in timeliness.
Great. Thank you. And question 4. This will go to Nick first. So what does a typical transition to a new system entail? Basically, what is the time frame to move?
So I know Paul's going to talk a little bit about the time frame. So I'm going to talk specifically about a question that our consulting team gets a lot is, what about my data, right? So, well, I don't want to just start over and lose everything. So we get tools from the publishers like Sage to kind of help us pull that information in. So, and we've done this for every single migration we've ever done with a client. So we'll pull in things like your chart of accounts, your customer list, your vendor list, and even transaction history. Many times we can bring over your general ledger transaction history in detail so that you can, still do consolidated financial reports and even do comparative if you want to go back in time and drill into them to see that detail. So you don't really lose that kind of information. It's also a really good time to do cleanup. See clients take advantage of kind of getting rid of vendors you haven't used in 4 years, right? Because you've been on this system for 25 years and you got lots of junk out there. Or renumbering the chart of accounts to put it in a better format that makes more sense for reporting going forward. So don't worry necessarily about the data. That's something that we do all the time. And we'll talk with you about bringing over all those things, whether, as I said, customers, vendors, inventory items, inventory counts, general ledger history, right? So open invoices, bank information. So we'll help you kind of manage that.
Great. And on to the timing piece from Paul.
So a typical transition, for example, from a legacy Sage system to something like Sage Intacct would be typically 3 months. And it's painful, when we go through our discovery, It's a bit like sitting in a dentist chair while someone pods and prokes around and shines a light in some awkward areas. But that kind of has to be done that we can then, prescribe the right solution, quite frankly. So once we've started the discovery, and we're discovering forever, that never actually stops, but the real lion's share of the discovery is at the start. We then go into a series of demos, we then go into a series of kind of tuning that to suit. We then define a scope and help with, pricing. We can give high level pricing up front, which is typically quite accurate, especially because of our previous experiences with fleet cost and care. We've got many, many mutual clients. And then ultimately kind of aiming for a go live, which it can be scary, but we appreciate that. And we like to challenge, as Nick said, the status quo or we've always done it that way. We do like to challenge that. There are advancements, not just in technology, but also in processes as well. So it's a journey that we've been on many times. We can help, we can comfort, we can lead, we can guide. And the hindsight of having done this many times means that we've got a good understanding of what's actually involved. But typically 3 months is very common.
Okay. And looking at time, we got to get to the last question. Tony.
Yeah, so just very quickly, to Paul's point, we've converted about a third of our Sage using clients onto Intact now, which is the full SaaS version of Sage. Um, in that process, we've learned a lot. We've made a few mistakes, but we now have a pretty slick process. And so we know the contact points, we know the detail points, we know what's going to cause a problem, because there is always the same problems pop up. So we've got it down pretty well, and we can offer a pretty seamless service to do the conversion over. Um, it, we no longer seem to have any issues with gaps after we've done it because we've done enough of them to make sure that's the case. So staying on our current next gen versions, converting over is very simple. And of course, if you've converted over to the new SaaS product in Intact, when our new SaaS product comes along, it'll be a direct interface. There'll be no conversion required. And if you go to our new product first, when you go to SaaS on Intact, it'll connect directly as well. So that'll become a seamless connection. So, yeah, to Paul's point, done this many times. Other people have taken the pain. New people coming along now get the easy integrations.
Yeah, well said. And I'll leave the last question just for Paul to quickly go through. What does support look like beyond the transition?
Sure. So that's entirely up to the client. We can have a pay-as-you-go service, which is when you call us for we then kind of answer that and bill that accordingly. Or we can have a monthly, more proactive service, which is, monitoring updates, providing information on functional releases, things like that. So we are trying to get away from the pay-as-you-go because it's quite emotive. So we're trying to guesstimate what level of support you would typically use on that basis, and then kind of have your monthly support contract and build a few things in. So we've got as Tony said, we've got a lot of integration with the next gen application. So we can build that connector in and things like that and make that service much more palatable as we go forward. So plenty of options, but yeah, getting through to go live is stage one, and then stage two is, how can we work together, attending events together, the confluence that fleet cost and care, and really sharing ideas and industry changes and working as closely as we can with fleet cost and care so that they really deliver on the operational side of your business and we work with them so that we deliver collectively on the financial side of your business.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Looks like we won't have time for the chat feature. If there are any chat questions, we do want to cover this last slide before we depart. The next steps would be to contact either Tony or myself. We can set up a free 30-minute consultation. And what we'll do is we'll dive even deeper on the features and what you're looking for, in particular at your company. We'll create that plan that Paul spoke about in finer detail about the migration, whether it be immediate in a few months or next year. And we'll also cover obviously the high level pricing and do any demonstrations for any team members. So with all of that, I just want to say thank you to the panel. Thank you, Stephen, for running this, and thank you all for attending. We will share this presentation recording and the PowerPoint itself. So feel free to distribute amongst your colleagues. And again, thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Appreciate it. Take care.
Thanks,
Bye now.
Carl.